pry their way into a local convenience store, but what they didn't realize was that cameras captured their every move.
Hey, it's Lori. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Well, neck and neck in the polls. Democrat Stacey Abrams and Republican Brian Kemp spend the last day before the election looking to secure some last-minute votes. The race for governor, certainly the one to watch tomorrow.
Yes, and the early voting numbers confirm that. Voters have already showed up in record numbers. Laura GEARY from the Georgia gang joins us in the studio to talk about this. So what does this tell us about this election so far?
Well, people are fired up, and that probably is the understatement of the year. 1/3 of the early voters who showed up already did not vote 4 years ago. And perhaps that's a good sign for Stacey Abrams, because she's really concentrating on bringing out those Democrats who felt left out, who felt it wasn't worth their vote. Brian Kemp has really gone after those Trump supporters who may not vote in midterm elections, but as you know, showed up big time 2 years ago to give President Trump the win.
Yeah, a lot of national interest in this race. President Obama, Oprah here last week for Stacey Abrams, the president, President Trump here yesterday for Brian Kemp. What are the national implications?
Well, the obvious one is that Stacey Abrams is vying to be the first African-American governor of a state, the female African-American governor. But also, this really is a race about the extremes. If you think about it, neither Stacey Abrams or Brian Kemp have really gone after the independent votes. They've really been courting the Republicans, firing up their bases, courting the Democrats and firing up their bases, both really at the risk of alienating those independent voters, those undecided voters. And this is really a strategy that we have not seen play out in Georgia.
When we talk about the early voters, have we learned anything about the demographics compared to what we saw 4 years ago?
There was this great new website for politicos, and I'm sure you guys probably checked it out. It's called GeorgiaVoters.com, and there's a fellow by the name of Ryan Anderson. He's a guru in terms of data, and he's really broken down these numbers. We know that 57% of early voters are white. 30% are African American, and the pollsters are saying that Stacey Abrams needs to get to about 34% African American turnout in order to have an outright win. And 4 years ago, that number was at 29%, so that's not very easy for her. Right. We know that the early voters are also slightly more female, and slightly more minority voters are coming out this year compared to 4 years ago.
Interesting. We haven't talked about President Trump, at least not directly, and he has gone around the country saying, you know, a vote for so-and-so Republican, wherever he happens to be, is a vote for me, as though it is a referendum on him. We'll see whether it is here. And
we'll see, because Brian Kemp really, in the general election, hasn't really tied himself as much to Donald Trump as he did, obviously, in the primary, and it worked for him in the primary, but huge numbers in Macon when Donald Trump came to Middle Georgia.
Wow. All right. We're watching every detail.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Lori.
Thanks, Lori. A MARTA bus driver jumps in to stop a man